Hi everyone. Today we are going to see about the directive principles of state policy. This is in Unit 2, Module 2 in Indian Constitution. Let us see an introduction about this directive principles of state policy. First, let us see what is the meaning of this directive principles. These are the guidelines or instructions to the central government or state government or the local government in formulating the policy, whether it is the health policy or economic policy, whatever it is, they have to follow this directive principles of state policy. This directive principles of state policy provides guiding principles for the government to formulate policies and laws for the welfare and development of the country. You know, girls, our Indian Constitution is a special one, the lengthiest constitution in the world. And this lengthiest constitution gave a place, that is a philosophical part of the constitution. This philosophical part is the fundamental rights of the people as well as the directive principles of state policy. So this is the novel future, new one. It is borrowed from the Irish Constitution. You know, this Indian Constitution is drawn from various sources. One of the sources, that is Irish Constitution. This our framers adopted new principles from various constitutions. So, Part 4 of the Indian Constitution has enumerated this directive principles from Article 36 to 51. You girls, you read and then realize what is directive principle. These are the principles. Along with the fundamental rights, along with the directive principle, constitute the philosophy of the Constitution. So, let us see the difference between directive principles and fundamental rights. We say this is the philosophical part. Philosophy. The Indian Constitution provided 6 fundamental rights to the citizens of India. So, these are the positive instruction to the government to work for the attainment of set objectives. The set objectives mean the preamble. The preamble, the mirror of the Constitution, set the objectives. Objectives, you know, the political justice, economic justice, and then social justice. This is the aim. So, the positive instruction to the government to work for the attainment of set objectives. The difference between the fundamental rights and the directive principle. The fundamental rights are enforceable through courts. That is, if any of the fundamental right is violated, we can go to the court. Through the constitutional remedies, we can establish our rights. But this directive principles of state policy, these directive principles are not enforceable through the courts. The central government, the government has to follow these principles while formulating the policy of the country. So, courts cannot take any action against the government if it ignores or violates them. Right? If any of the principle in this directive principles are violated or ignored by any government, courts cannot take any action against the government. This is the basic difference between the directive principles and the fundamental rights. So, these are inferior to fundamental rights because in case of conflict between the two, the latter must get precedence. The latter must get the precedence means the fundamental rights get the precedence, get the importance. So, let us see about the classification of directive principle. Classification. These directive principles are classified into socialist principle, Gandhian principles, and then liberal principles. You know, in this directive principle, socialism. The socialism means what? All are equal in wealth. So, this directive principle aimed to establish what type of state? Socialist state, welfare state. Welfare state is the main aim. So, the socialist principles are adopted in the articles 38, 39, 39A, 41A and 43 and 43A and 47. These are the articles deals about the social principles of directive principles of state policy. And next one, the Gandhian principles. You know very well about Mahatma Gandhi, this father of our nation. He struggled for not only for freedom, but also he wanted to establish a socialist state. He aimed the welfare of the villages, the development of villages, development of Indian economy. So, the articles 40 and 43 and 43B and 46, 47, 48. These are the articles deals about the Gandhian principle. And the next one is liberal or intellectual principle. These are the articles, that is 40, 45 and then 50, 51, 49. These are all the articles classified. These are the articles are classified as liberal principle. So, the classification gave guidelines to the society, the guidelines to the principles of socialism, and that is in Indian economic development, as well as in foreign matters also, that is liberal. And these are the principles we have to follow in formulating the foreign policy of our country. So, the next important directive principle. Among these principles, these are very important. Economic or socialist principle. These principles aim at providing social and economic justice and establishment of welfare state. Simply we call it as DPSP. This DPSP aims at what? Social justice, economic justice, and these principles, the aim of the principle is establishment of welfare state. In what way we have to establish a welfare state? That is first thing, adequate means of livelihood to all citizens. Adequate means what? Enough means of livelihood to all citizens. And the second one is a proper distribution of material resource of the community for the common good. That is, common good is the essential aim, the proper distribution of material resources. You know, the material resources are rivers, that is the natural resources, and you know, the basic communities also. The prevention of concentration of wealth into few hands. This is the most important one. Our government is concentrating, that is, you know, in the fundamental rights. Right to property is deleted. One of the fundamental rights, right to property, is deleted, and it was enlisted in the legal rights. Okay. The next one is equal pay for equal work. All should get equal pay for their equal work. This is the another important principle. These are the important. In this way, these are the government is wanted. The government is wanted to establish the constitution, especially the constitution aimed equality. So, protection of strength and health of workers, the laborers. The government is concentrating for economic development. This is very essential. That is, prevention of protection of strength and health of workers, and the protection of youth and children. They are the pillars. The youth development is very essential. So protection of youth and children against exploitation, and to make efforts to secure the right to work and education, right to education and public assistance in case of unemployment, sickness, old age. These are all the very important principles, the center of the socialism, center of socialist state. So the next principle, Gandhian principle. This Gandhian principle, the embodiment of Gandhian program for reconstruction. You know, Mahatma Gandhi in his constructive program, this constructive program only attracted all the people of India to move towards struggle for freedom, towards the struggle for freedom. So, these, after getting independence, the government is concentrating, the Constituent Assembly of India gave importance to Gandhian principles. These Gandhian principles are located in this part 4 of the Indian Constitution, Article 36 to 51. So, what are all the principles? What are all the Gandhian principles? You know, Mahatma Gandhi said, India lives in villages. So, the establishment of village panchayats are powerful enough to function as units of self-governance. Self-governance is very important. So, self-governance to whom? The village panchayat. The village panchayats have to look after the facilities to the people of the villages. So, the second one is the promotion of educational and economic interest of weaker section of the society. It is also very important, the promotion of education and the economic interest of the weaker section of the society. By this way only we have to establish the socialism, the socialistic principle. And the promotion of cottage industries. You know, at the time of British government, when the British government is ruling our India, the cottage industries are declined. So, Mahatma Gandhi stressed the promotion of cottage industries. In this way, the promotion of cottage industries is included in Gandhian principles of Directive principle. So, the prohibition of intoxicating drugs and drinks. You know, girls, this Mahatma Gandhi fought against drinking. So, in this way, the prohibition, Mahatma Gandhi gave more importance, more stress for the prohibition of intoxicating drugs and drinks, and the prevention of slaughter of cows and other milk cattle, etc. For giving agriculture, for giving importance to agriculture, this principle is very essential. And the next important principle, liberal and intellectual principle. These principles are based on liberal thinking and emphasize the need for these directive principles. The third category, the first one is socialism, and the second one is Mahatma Gandhi Gandhian principles, and liberal and intellectual principle. A uniform civil code for the country. Till that is now the government is struggling. Now the government is doing steps to introduce a uniform civil code for the country, and free and compulsory education for children up to the age of 14 years. This was introduced by the Constitutional Amendment 2002. That is one of the 11th duty, one of the 11th fundamental duty of every citizen to work for free and compulsory education for all children up to the age of 14 years. And another important principle, separation of judiciary and executive. You know, in India, in the constitution, the judiciary has the power of judicial review to review the laws passed by the legislature. But this is also important, the separation of judiciary and executive. And there was a provision for free legal aid to economically backward classes to ensure that opportunities for securing justice are not denied to any citizen by reason of economic and other disabilities. That means free legal aid. This is also practically doing in our country. This free legal aid by the courts. This free legal aid to all citizens. Now, to all citizens, that is, all are equal before law. This is the basic structure of our constitution. So, the constitution provides, the constitution accommodated the provision for free legal aid to economically backward classes to ensure the opportunities, equal opportunities for securing justice, for no one to be denied, no citizen to be denied for equal justice. And another one is organization of agriculture and animal husbandry along scientific lines. Okay, this is the point, very important point. That is, agriculture is the backbone of our Indian economy. And for this agriculture, animal husbandry is essential. These two are established in the scientific lines. So, this is the most important liberal and intellectual principle, and securing the participation of workers in the management of industries. That is, in the running of any industry, management of any industry, there should be a participation of workers. That means representation of laborers. And next principle, protection and improvement of environment, safeguarding the forest and wildlife of the country. That is, this is very, very important. You know, girls, you have studied this environmental studies. It is also one of the fundamental duties. That is protection and the improvement of environment and safeguarding the natural resources, safeguarding the forest and wildlife of the country. We have studied, that is, endangering of species. The forest area is also decreasing whenever we are concentrating in the environmental studies. And protecting monuments and places of artistic or historical importance. This is the most important point. That is, the protecting monuments. The UNO as well as the world, UNO declared the World Heritage Sites. Many World Heritage Sites in our India. Many monuments in India. We cannot construct these monuments at this time. So, everyone, that is, the government is stressing, providing monuments and places of artistic or historical importance. And the next one is emphasis on the promotion of international peace and security and maintenance of just and honorable relations between the nations. This is the most important point. You know, and our Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India, he enlightened on foreign policy. That is, the foreign policy, the Panchashila, the principles of Panchashila was introduced by Jawaharlal Nehru, the five principles to maintain international peace. So, by this way, the international peace, the protection of international peace and security, maintenance of just and honorable relations between nations, and the fostering of respect for international law and obligations, legal obligation, and encouraging the settlement of international disputes through arbitration. That is, the arbitration courts are working for removing the international disputes. So far we have seen the 3 principles in nutshell, but there are some additional directive principles added by amendments. The 42nd Amendment, that is the 42nd Amendment is called as mini constitution, added 4 new directive principles. First one is secure opportunities for healthy development of children. The children, as we have already seen, the youth, the protection of youth and children. It was ensured in Article 39, secure opportunities for healthy development of children, Article 39. And promote equal justice and provide free legal aid to the poor. That is in Article 39. And secure the participation of the workers in the management of industry. Protect and improve the environment. The government is giving importance to these additional directive principles. So, by the amendment, 44th Amendment 1978, they minimize the inequalities in income, status, facilities and opportunities. This is in Article 38. The 2002 Amendment, in the year 2002, the 86th Amendment provide early childhood care and education to all children up to the age of 6 years. These are all the additional directive principles and very important directive principles of the state policy. And what are the principles in practice? Let us see. These are not enforceable through courts due consideration while enacting laws. That is, while formulating laws, these are not enforceable through courts. And the central and state governments, the central government and the state government do their best to implement these principles. These are social principles, whether it is a social, whether it is economic, or whether Gandhian principles or liberal or intellectual principles. And the abolition of zamindari system. This is the very important feature that led to economic development. So, abolition of zamindari system. Tillers of the soil are the real owners of the land. Now we are practicing. That is, tillers of the soil. They are the real owners of the land. So, the directive principle aimed welfare state. This is the most important point, welfare state. Tillers of the soil are the real owners of the land. Laws for the improvement of the condition of cultivators. So, first thing, tillers of the soil are the real owners, and for their welfare, laws for the government is enacting laws for the improvement of condition of cultivators. You know, girls, Article 17 of Indian Constitution, by this Article 17, this untouchability has been abolished. You know, Dr. B.R.AMBEDKAR said these directive principles are the soul of the Constitution. Soul of the Constitution. And the Minimum Wages Act was passed. The minimum wages have been fixed for the workers and the labor. That is, after independence, we have got many laws for the welfare of the workers. So, in that one, the minimum wages have been fixed for the workers and the labor. And the panchayats have been established all over the country. These are all the principles or practiced. And the promotion of cottage industries, establishment of All India Khadi Board, Village Industries Board, Small Scale Industries, All India Handloom. These are reflecting the ideal of promotion of cottage industry. And the slaughter of cows and calves have been prohibited in several states. In many states, the principle, the directive principle, these are all in practice. So, these directive principles are not enforceable by the court. Still, they are fundamental in the governance of the country. This is very important. This is the basic, this is the fundamental in the governance of our country. and no government can afford to ignore them without running the risk of losing favor with the people. That is, no government, the state government, whether the central government, the state government, these are the positive instructions. The directive principles are the directive principles of state policy. While they formulating the policy, they have to follow, they have to get the guidelines from the part 4 of the Indian Constitution, that is directive principles of the state policy, articles 36 to 51. Thank you.